Hello and welcome to another episode of App Stories. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I think you and I both had our first truly relaxing weekend in a while.
In a while. I went out for lunch on Saturday. A Saturday lunch hasn't happened in months. So that was nice.
Yeah, we went out for a nice dinner the other night, which I'll mention on Mac Stories on Wine because there's an Italian angle to it.
Okay.
So today, though, on App Stories, we have a few things to talk about. We thought you suggested that we talk about things we'd like to see Apple do yet in 2025. Now, these are not predictions necessarily about what we think Apple's going to do. And it's more what we actually want from Apple in 2025. So
yeah,
we should just dive into it, I think, Federico.
Yeah, I go first. I want to see, obviously, in 2025, and I think it's going to happen, I want to see iOS 26.1 for a couple of reasons. The first item in my list is that I want to see Apple refine liquid glass now that iOS 26 has been out for people. And I don't know about you, John, but I've kind of got a mixed reaction from people, like sort of all over the place. Some people saying, oh, the new design is very cool. Some people saying, the new design, I don't like it. And most people in real life telling me, is that a new design? Because I didn't really notice it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of want to see where Apple lands with liquid glass now that it's out for people, now that they're hopefully getting more feedback from users. Like, what's the vision for liquid glass beyond this initial debut? Well, are we going to see Apple refine the language? Are we going to see Apple introduce more options, whether you want to have a strong liquid glass effect or not? Obviously, I don't think they're going to backtrack on liquid glass. I think for better or worse, we're stuck with liquid glass for at least a year, if not more. But are they going to touch it? Are they going to do anything to it or not?
I think they will. I think actually we'll see more on the Mac side of things because I feel like the Mac side of things on Tahoe felt a little more unfinished. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes because there's this weird balance that I covered in my review between what is more of a frosted glass look compared to the kind of totally transparent look that you see more often on iOS and iPadOS. I'd like to see the Mac stick more with the frosted glass look because I think since it's typically a screen that you hold further away from your face than you do an iPhone or an iPad in most situations, that it works a little bit better for legibility that way. But yeah, that would be a good thing to see.
My other item in my list is that I hope the rumor that we discussed last week of Apple doing MCP comes true in iOS 26.1. So we did an episode about MCP, sort of trying to demystify MCP, what it is and what it does. And I'm sure as we're recording this, we're switching to a different schedule for recording App Stories. We're finally trying recording App Stories on Monday. As we're recording this in a few hours, there's going to be the OpenAI Dev Day, where some announcements are expected, including, maybe some things with MCP and custom GPTs, which are features that OpenAI hasn't really touched in a while. But I hope that rumor that we talked about is correct and that our interpretation of the rumor is correct. I have spent a lot of time lately, John, doing a lot of research with all the major LLM apps on iOS. And as I sort of hinted last week, it's a really dire landscape in terms of what are the iOS apps? So ignore the web apps and ignore the Mac apps. What are the iPhone and iPad apps that allow me to use MCP and app integrations on the phone? And as we know right now, your only solution is Claude and maybe Mistral, but I didn't really have a great experience with Mistral myself. No. So your only option is Claude. I think there's so much potential in this idea of Apple saying, look, we don't have an LLM, but the iPhone is a great platform for LLMs from other companies. And we have the app ecosystem. And we love that people download apps from the App Store. And we want all of our developers to build these modern apps with app intents that can provide functionalities beyond the silo of the application itself, right? App intents are used in shortcuts, in widgets, in control center, in all the places. And I think there's so much potential for Apple to say, those app intents, you can use them in ChatGPT, you can use them in Claude, you can use them in Perplexity, as long as those developers support our native MCP bridge, our MCP framework that gives users permission controls, authorizations, fine-grained settings to say, I want to be able to use, I don't know, Music Harbor in Claude, but I don't want to give it access to ChatGPT or something like that. I think it would be uniquely Apple to sidestep the issue of them not having a great LLM altogether and saying, but we have the app ecosystem.
We have the data.
We have the data, we have the apps. You love using the apps, and we have the permission system. Go crazy, have fun. I really hope they do it.
It just seems like an opportunity that I hope they don't waste, because it really is one of those situations where it's been built in such a way through app intents that the OS is intricately involved in the process, which is what allows for those kind of permission systems and the security level that I think would make it a lot more usable and more comfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah, and in a way, I think I've seen a lot of comments from people saying, why would Apple do this? Because they want to lock you into Apple Intelligence. They don't really want to lock you into Apple Intelligence. I think Apple's angle could simply be, look, you're using our platform, you're using our apps from the App Store. Yeah. We love that you download apps from the App Store. We love that you subscribe to those apps. So really the lock-in really is the App Store, and it's iOS. It's not the LLM that you're using.
No. And look, I don't think we would even have anything called Apple Intelligence if AI hadn't become such the rage. I think the things we have, like writing tools, would just be writing tools. They would just be a feature of the system. I mean, it's one of those things where Apple's been using machine learning and artificial intelligence in a bunch of apps for a lot of years. It's just that they're kind of behind if you look at it from the perspective of chatbots and the very narrow part of the generative AI industry that took off with OpenAI and ChatGPT and all the rest of them. So yeah, I think that Apple's focus really ought to be on finding more ways for app intents to be useful to users, because if app intents are useful to users, that means apps are more useful to users. And at the end of the day, as you said, it's all about the App Store.
Yeah. All right. What's in your list? I think the rest of our list is all hardware.
It really is.
Well, except for one thing in your list.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I should start with that, because before we get to the hardware, I do think that it's time for Final Cut Pro for the iPad to get third-party plugins. This is something that Apple promised when they first released the app about 2 years ago, I want to say now, maybe a little bit more than that. And it's one of the things that I believe is holding that back as a tool for a lot of creators to make videos. Now we're at a point where we're probably on the cusp of some hardware announcements on the iPad, which I wouldn't be surprised is one of our picks coming up soon. And I think that with an M5 chip, if that's what we get in an iPad Pro, that, I think we're getting to the kind of power where certainly the hardware probably isn't a limitation now, but if there are any limitations, whether it's RAM, because of having plugins, running at the same time, if this is the app or whatever, we've been getting more RAM too because of AI. And as a result, I think there's a good case to be made for plugins in Final Cut Pro for iPad this year.
Yeah, they promised this so many years ago.
And they said literally nothing ever since. Not a peep.
Yeah, I know that our friend Chris Lawley has been asking for this for like 3 years.
Yeah, I make this one on behalf of Chris and all the YouTubers out there.
Yeah, shout out to Chris, always. I want a new iPad Pro, and I want it to be more exciting than what the latest leaks from Russia paint it out to be.
Yes.
So hopefully there's, so in case you're not familiar, once again, somebody in Russia got their hands on an M5 iPad Pro from a warehouse or something. And so far the leak has not been dramatically exciting, because we know that this iPad Pro was going to look like the M4 iPad Pro from last year. It's going to have an M5 and like 12% faster CPU, 30% faster GPU, sort of matching the trajectory of what we've seen over the past few years in terms of incremental upgrades and more to be gained on the GPU side.
Mm-hmm.
Not really a surprise when you consider how much of these AI tasks are GPU bound. But in any case, if it could be more exciting, I would like to see an iPad Pro with two webcams. So one on the short side, one on the landscape side. More RAM in higher configurations.
Yep.
I would love to see, the 1 terabyte iPad Pro or a 2 terabyte iPad Pro with, 24 gigs of RAM. And for Apple to say, for Apple to offer a compelling story with Apple Intelligence and that amount of RAM, saying on this iPad Pro, you can download, an even bigger on-device Apple Intelligence model or something like that. Or you can keep a lot of apps in memory, especially now that you can use windowing on an iPad. And lastly, and this gets overlooked, it's time for some new accessories. I know that the Magic Keyboard was released last year, but we've had a single Magic Keyboard and a Smart Folio for how many years at this point? 6 years at this point?
Yeah.
I just want Apple to try something new. I don't know, make a different version of the Magic Keyboard, make one with a kickstand, or make multiple versions of the Apple Pencil. I don't know, more for Apple to have a little more fun and see more experimentation from Apple on the accessories front.
One way that they could do that, I think, would be to add a second USB-C port to the iPad Pro, right? So if you put one on the long edge, think of the things you could do. You could maybe have a secondary, like if you're filming yourself with the iPad Pro, you could have a secondary screen up there pointing at you to monitor how the shot is framed. You could put a light up there. You could put a better webcam up there than the one that's built in. There's a lot of things you could do potentially with one on the horizontal side of the iPad Pro. I'm going to go with hardware too, and I'm going to go with a brand new studio display. This is a thing that I really want to see come out. I mean, the studio display is a great display already. The thing is that at this point, it's pretty old tech. It's still remarkably one of the better, brighter, higher density, pixel density screens that you can get out there. Although there have been a lot more in the last 12 months or so from Asus and LG, and I think maybe even Samsung that are really pushing the limits of these things. Now, the thing with the studio display is despite it being a big, bright, pixel-dense screen, it's also pretty slow refresh rate. It's 60 hertz. I'd like to see it bumped up to at least 120. I don't think we're going to get like the 240 plus that we see on the gaming side of the world, but 120, I think, matching what you get on devices like the iPhone and the iPad is a reasonable ask. Plus, I'd like to see Thunderbolt 5 built into the screen so that we actually have a Thunderbolt 5 hub there. And it'd be nice if it was a little bit more than what we have with the existing studio display, which is just Thunderbolt 4, USB-C style connectors. If we actually had, maybe you could plug your Ethernet in there, or maybe you had, HDMI and DisplayPort, different kinds of connections that make it a more versatile screen for people who want to do more than just connect a Mac to it. I mean, you went through this when you were looking for a gaming monitor, right? And you could not.
I have been through it all. Yes.
It's not that easy you can't really connect a Windows PC, a gaming PC, or a console or whatever it is up to a studio display in any kind of easy way.
You can, but you sacrifice a lot.
A lot. Yeah, it's either super fiddly or you sacrifice a lot of quality. So yeah, I'd like to see that. And I'd also like to see, putting aside the Pro Display XDR for the moment, I'm just talking about the studio display. I'd like to see it come in two configurations, 27 inches and 32. I think it's time for Apple to do, at the lower end of the market, a larger display for a lot of these big apps that people are using and multi-display type stuff.
Now, let me ask you, if this comes out, are you going to upgrade?
Nope. I don't think so. I still like my studio display. If I had something to do with this, if I had somewhere to put this display, I would maybe do it. I don't think I will, though. We'll see.
Can you do the trading for displays? I gotta tell you, I did the trading for the first time. I did the trading for the first time in my life with the 16 Pro Max and the Apple Watch Ultra 1. so much easier and faster than selling it online. Yes, I could have gotten
Now
a
you
couple
know.
a couple more
Yeah.
€100,
Yeah.
but it was so convenient.
Federico, now you know why I do it all the time. I've been doing it for years now because you know what? You can't beat the empty cardboard box that comes in the mail that you just drop off somewhere and you don't have to deal with randos or anything. You just get your credit back on your credit. And even it used to be there was a time when you would get like a gift card back. Now they actually do, especially if you're in the upgrade every year program for the phone, at least it goes back to your credit card and stuff. So yeah, it's a good program. Good program. What do you have next?
I want to see an Apple TV update that makes some sort of sense. We talked about this, I think, a while back.
Yeah, I debated putting this on my list, and I decided not to because I'm still not sure what an Apple TV in 2025 would be that would be better than what I have.
The whole thing for me would be better Wi-Fi and native upscaling for everything.
Yeah.
There are still so many sources of content that don't offer native 4K.
Right.
And we've seen 4K upscaling techniques on the Mac and on the iPhone, on the iPad based on metal. And so the only thing I can think of is an Apple TV with better Wi-Fi, because, Wi-Fi 7, obviously, but also a native upscaling feature that makes everything look crisp and sharp without having to, I don't know, sign up or get a special cable. No, it just, the TV handles the processing and the upscaling without sacrificing Dolby Atmos, without sacrificing Dolby Vision, actually, and HDR. Like, that's the only thing I can think of right now, because I don't really want to use the Apple TV for gaming, although I could be swayed, if the Apple TV really has good Wi-Fi, and with the new controller pairing thing that they have this year, I could see an Apple TV be, especially with upscaling built in, like an Apple TV with upscaling and really, really good Wi-Fi and easy controller pairing. That would be a pretty nice moonlight machine for my gaming PC.
Two things.
Yeah.
Two things. Don't you have your Apple TV connected by Ethernet?
Not in the bedroom.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the one in your living room because you have Ethernet to your media center. Yeah. So here's a thought for you. Apple rolls out an Apple TV with the upscaling with Wi-Fi 7, still has Ethernet. Maybe they bump it up to 10 gigabits per second or something. And at the same time, they bring NVIDIA out on stage, and they've got a native app for the Apple TV to stream games on GeForce Now.
Yeah. Okay.
That could be really, is that plus the controller, plus the horsepower to handle graphics on native games. I think that would, to me, like the streaming piece of it, in a way, is a potential stopgap, because right now there aren't. There are some kind of AAA games coming out on the iPhone and the iPad, but the Apple TV, not so much. So I think that, having the ability to stream, whether it's GeForce Now or Microsoft's Xbox Cloud Gaming, those kind of things would really fill the gap with good quality Wi-Fi, while Apple convinces developers to put some, beefier games on the Apple TV.
Yeah. I would be all over that product if Apple goes all in on streaming, upscaling, and like things like latency reduction, like that sort of thing.
Right.
That'd be fascinating. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What do I have on my list still? I'm gonna go with a small one. I'm gonna go with the AirTags.
A small one.
Yeah, very literally a small one. I love my AirTags. I've got them on luggage. I've got them on my backpack. I've got them in my glasses case. Being able to find those things, especially if they make it so they can detect verticality better. So I know whether when I'm in my living room and it's telling me it's 10 feet away, it's really 10 feet away, but in my bedroom above me, I would be able to tell that. That would be kind of nice. That's just what I'm hoping for. One with, a little better range, a little better detection in 3 dimensions. That would do it for me. I'd buy a bunch of them.
Yeah, especially if they can make them even smaller. I mean, you are bound to the physical size of the coin battery. But there are, I think, even smaller watch batteries.
There
maybe.
are a lot of different batteries of kind of that configuration that are like a disc. And the thing about the AirTag is it's a little domed. I know this very well from trying to fit one to tape one inside my glasses case, which I actually have my glasses case right here on my sunglasses. Take the glasses out. You can see that I have right there.
Oh, nice.
So it's the sunglasses emoji engraving on it, but it's literally, I just took some of that clear sticky stuff and taped it to the inside of the glasses case, and the glasses just barely fit in there with that extra, whatever it is, maybe centimeter or so of width reduced.
There's something else I want to see from Apple this year.
What's that?
An official Thunderbolt 5 cable.
I forgot that they don't have one of those. Why do you want an official Apple one?
Well, because they make the best cables, right? The Apple Thunderbolt 4 Pro cable is arguably, for the money, the best Thunderbolt 4 cable you can get. Their 3-meter Thunderbolt 4 Pro cable, very expensive, but also very reliable. And that's because they added microcontrollers in both ends of the cable that controls the electric signal, so that you don't get any signal degradation when data and data travels through the cable. They don't make fiber optic cables, but despite that, their 3-meter Thunderbolt 4 cable is excellent, and it's braided, really high quality cable. Coming from me, believe me, I've tried all the cables. That's a really good cable. They don't have a Thunderbolt 5 one, and I would like Apple to make one and make it available both in black and white. Right now, they only make it in black. So this is going to be an expensive cable, like a $200, $250 cable in the 3-meter length. But it's time that, they have Thunderbolt 5 everywhere on the Mac. Well, I guess... except the Mac Pro. Or I don't know. Does the iMac have Thunderbolt 5 at this point?
I don't even remember what has it and what doesn't at this point.
Yeah.
I think they may all at this point, but I don't know. Yeah, I hear you. I guess especially at those longer lengths, other manufacturers either don't make them at all. 2 meters tends to be the outside length for the spec, unless you have some kind of, like you said, microcontroller in there that can actually boost the signal. I have, as a result, what I've done is I've mostly bought short Thunderbolt 5 cables, which work very reliably. OWC and Cable Matters are the ones that I tend to buy, both on Amazon. But I do have a couple that are like 1 meter long. I'm kind of I use them mostly at my desk for both charging and data, so I don't need really long ones most of the time. But if you want a long one, and I would prefer if they're braided. None of the ones I've been able to find otherwise are anything other than kind of like plastic rubber coating on the outside. Which,
let me ask you, is there anything else for 2025 that you are in the market for right now?
I'm really not. I'm really not. I mean, well, let's see. One thing that here's like a wish that has not been rumored at all, which is some kind of Thunderbolt 5 mass external storage solution. I have spent months looking at things like network attached storage, also fast Thunderbolt SSDs. There are very few of those out there yet. Enclosures, that kind of thing. And one of the reasons is that I find things like Time Machine, having a large SSD on a MacBook Pro, very slow to do. And so I don't do it as often as I should. And I think if I had a Thunderbolt 5 attached storage, not only would it be good for things like backups, it would also be great for big projects where we're doing video projects and things, because file management really becomes an issue when you're doing video. And we've been doing video all year, and that's been something that I've had to reckon with over and over again over the months, but I still haven't found exactly what I want, because one thing people do is they have network attached storage, but network attached storage tends to be, even if it's in like RAID 0, if it's over a network cable, it tends to be relatively, it's not good for video editing, is I guess what I'm getting at. It's good for things like storage and backups and that kind of thing. What you have to get is there are a few companies that make mass storage devices that can take multiple SSDs or multiple hard drives that connect via Thunderbolt 4. But there's none that do Thunderbolt 5 yet. I'd love a Thunderbolt 5 device that is quiet and has both SSD and or traditional hard drives that just has a ton of storage that I can use as a drive for working with video.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really seen any option. Despite, I mean, Thunderbolt 5
You'll know about it because I've been looking like constantly for weeks and months. So
yeah, I've seen that just now over the past month. The first Thunderbolt 5 eGPU enclosures have started coming out, and we spoke about this on MPC, our show about portable gaming. Over the past few months, it all comes down to the Thunderbolt controllers. Like any Thunderbolt device that you get, whether it's an enclosure or an external drive, like that thing has got to have a microcontroller inside, essentially like a little chip inside that controls the operations between the host and the client. And so that was the delay. Like, it's not like Apple announces Thunderbolt 5 and suddenly you can just make a Thunderbolt 5 accessory. You gotta wait for somebody, usually Intel or Broadcom or one of these companies, to make a controller for that Thunderbolt 5 accessory. So that's why lately, like the Razer eGPU enclosure for Thunderbolt 5 just came out. I saw yesterday the Aorus eGPU enclosure for Thunderbolt 5 is also starting to become available. There's like basically a year-long delay between the announcement of Thunderbolt 5 and the supply chain in China catching up with the necessary components. I think you're gonna get that accessory between the end of 2025 and early 2026, though.
Yeah, I think so. Probably not from Apple, but I think we'll see something that'll work. I mean, and it's actually been longer than a year now. It's been very slow, really. But I mean, Thunderbolt 5 still great for charging. You can get a lot of power out of a Thunderbolt 5 cable, so that's fantastic. There are a few SSD enclosures. I've tried them. They're incredibly fast. Problem is it's still very expensive to get like a lot of SSD storage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with all that in 2026.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we have in our list for 2025 for what we want to see from Apple. We've seen a lot from Apple already between the operating systems and the hardware. I think there's going to be an October event, and I think it's going to be an online one again. Yeah. Maybe they'll do a Halloween spooky event again. I could see that.
I was kind of thinking as we record this on the Monday, a full week in advance. I was kind of thinking that this week we might get an announcement for something in a couple of weeks, like middle of October. So maybe like, I don't know. I'd have to look at the calendar to see like like the 21st or something like that, or even very short notice, like towards the end of next week. They sometimes do those things where they invite people to New York, to the Soho Loft and that kind of thing. That could be where this goes. I guess I'd kind of like to see, just to tag one on the end, is to see a MacBook Pro, an M5. I've been using an M4. I don't feel like I need more power, but I'll tell you one thing that I have noticed, though. There is a bug in Electron that is causing.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's wreaking havoc with Apple Silicon. And once I finally read about it, I'm like, oh, that's what's going on. Because, I'm using Discord, I'm using Notion, I'm using GitHub desktop, a whole bunch of these that are doing this thing. And it all comes down to how they're rendering the corners of the windows. It's a really weird private API that they're using just for something very simple. But it's causing slowdowns, and people are upset about the animations. What I'm upset about, animations, it's great if they're smooth, but the thing I've been bothered about is it runs my MacBook Pro laptop that I have from Apple is running really hot, and the battery is draining super fast right now, and that's no good. So I have to really manage my Electron apps, and when I'm not using them, I got to close them, because otherwise I got to be connected to a power outlet, because it'll wear down the battery super, super fast.
Yeah. All right. Well, in the post show for AppStories Plus subscribers, I am going to talk about my experiments with Cerebras and using custom LLMs especially in iOS apps. It's It's a fun little weekend experiment that I've done. So you can catch that in the post show for AppStories Plus subscribers.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this because you sent me a short message about it over the weekend. And I thought, I saw this video you shot. And I was like, oh, this looks really, really interesting. So, all right, Federico. Well, that's it for this week's episode of App Stories. You can find us on macstories.net. If you're not already following MS Deals, that's Mac Stories Deals, on both Mastodon and Blue Sky, you should do so because it's getting into the holiday season very soon. Before you know it, there are going to be a lot of deals on Amazon. I'm sure Apple will do a lot of deals in the TV app, and we're going to have lots and lots of both of those. And so the best way to hear about all the best deals, the ones that we recommend, is by following Mac Stories Deals on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Of course, you can find me and Federico on both of those places as well. Federico is at Viticci, that's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.